I think we've got everybody here. We're all ready to go. It's good. It's good to see everybody. It's been quite a while since our last meeting. Um, if you don't already, I think most of you probably know me. I'm George Gastel. I'm the chair of the Accessibility Services Advisory Committee. I also represent Lemon Grove on the Metropolitan Transit System Board of Directors. I think we have a pretty reasonable meeting. I would say short, except that I usually end up being wrong when I predict things like that. But I think it will be reasonable, and we didn't take on too much. Let's start with the roll call.
George Gastel.
Right here.
Letty Zono is absent. So Hermes Castro. Oh, can you turn your mic on and speak into the mic?
Right here.
Thank you. And then Christian Hernandez.
Right
here. Debbie Marshall.
Here.
Todd Larson is absent. Samantha Stephen is absent. Zachary Bratt.
Here.
Alyssa On.
Here.
Melissa Hernandez.
Here.
Irene Santis-Esteban is absent. David Marino is absent. Rose Napoleon is absent. Walter Castillo. Monique Ball. And Casey Rodville.
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. And next, it's time for public comment.
We do not have any public comment, Chair.
Well, that's very different than the regular MTS board meeting. Number 3, we have approval of the minutes, and these are the minutes from September. Okay. Yes, I definitely had to refresh my memory. I was there. I'm glad to remember that. And I believe people are allowed to vote on the minutes whether or not they were there if they believe that they're accurate, but probably most of you were there. Is there any discussion of the minutes before we vote on approval? I think we probably want a motion.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Wonderful. Debbie Marshall moves to approve, and who wants the second?
I'll second.
Zachary Brand wants the second. Do we need to do a roll call, or can I would just say all in favor?
Can everybody turn on their mics?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And are there any no votes or any abstentions? Okay, wonderful. Next we come to the discussion items, starting with the PRONTO online reduced fare application update. I'm going to hear from Israel Maldonado and Amanda Denham.
Great. Good afternoon. Thanks for having us here today. My name is Israel Maldonado, Director for Technology and Operations, and I'm joined today by Amanda Denham, Director of Support Services. And today we are going to provide you an update on the reduced fare application portal. First, we'll touch on the project background. I'll go over some verification results, and then I'll turn it over to Amanda, who will talk to you about the ongoing customer support, outreach efforts, customer feedback. I will then touch on the deadline extension and next steps. So now a little bit of background on how we got here. PRONTO was implemented almost 3 years ago, September 2021. And back then, our policy required all reduced fares to undergo verification, but was only offered in person. And due to the quick transition from Compass to Pronto and the coming of the YOP program, we expected a higher demand for reduced fares. As such, a temporary eligibility option based on the honor system was established. All this with the intent to buy the agency time to implement the new online option, which was always part of the Pronto roadmap. This new online option went live December 5th, 2023, over 6 months ago. Since then, we have verified over 23,000 accounts successfully, with 92% of all applications submitted being successfully approved, which translates to a volume of over 100 plus applications received. We gave this same presentation earlier at the directors meeting, and a question came up about the abandonment rate, which we didn't have an answer at the time. An hour later, we have the answer. So we presented a 42% abandonment rate on the automated portion of the application where customers go to submit their documents online. Since then, the rate has decreased to 35%, a 7% decrease. While we have verified 23,000 accounts since December, we have verified a total of over 80,000 accounts since launch due to the great intense marketing outreach effort that was conducted over that first year of transition. But we are not done. We took a look at our data to identify the active rider base that still needs to be converted or needed to be converted. We define this active rider base as any customer that would tap at least one round trip per week, which translates to a little bit over 20 taps in the last 90 days. And this returned a quantity of 6,000 seniors and 19,000 youth, which means we need more time. As such, we provided an extension at the end of June for all accounts in the system that had at least one tap in the last 18 months. We know that's a very conservative approach. And to be frank, a lot of the cards that were extended there are probably never to be used again. I think we have all been guilty of keeping a card far too long that just never gets used, gets lost, or just never to be found. This translated to over 22,000 senior cards extended through September of this year, and 87,000 youth cards extended there. We also extended all the cards that were provided to Sandag and other institutions as part of outreach. With that, I will pass it over to Amanda.
Thank you, Israel, and good afternoon. As Israel mentioned, my name is Amanda Denham, and I'm the Director of Support Services. So when we introduced the online reduced fare application in December, it was an additional way for our riders to show their eligibility for reduced fare. But we also recognized that it was a new tool and customers would need to be able to have support to answer their questions. And so the Pronto Support Center, the Transit Store, and our passenger support representatives in the field have really taken on that role for our riders. We average 8,300 calls a month into our Pronto Support Center, and about 9 to 10% of those are about reduced fare. Prior to the launch of the application, that number was very consistent, right around 8 to 9%. And we still strive to make sure that those calls can be an efficient way to serve our customers. We knew that the addition of this tool would mean more customers needing support. And so we approached the board of directors last September requesting some additional staffing to be able to support this, as well as bring up the basic service metrics of the support center. We added staffing, and I'm pleased to share that the average wait time within Pronto is only 35 seconds. Prior to those additional staff members, that wait was over 3.5 minutes. So we are grateful for the team that we have in Pronto. You can see them pictured there. They love Pronto so much, they dressed up as Pronto superheroes for Halloween last year, made a giant Pronto card for one of our team members. So they really have a passion for our system and making sure that they provide great service to our riders. As we've launched the online application system, they are responsible for processing a portion of the cases. So Israel mentioned that some applications are automatically approved. So if you have a government ID that has your age on it, you can go through the application and have your ID automatically approved through the system by seeing your ID through the scan. If you qualify in another way, say you're a youth with a school ID or you're using an SSI award letter, those applications need to be manually reviewed so that we can verify the person submitting them and the legitimacy of the document. And I'm pleased to share that most manual review cases are processed in under 3 calendar days. In addition to having support available over the phone, MTS has made significant efforts to reach our writers so they understand what is required and how they can verify their accounts. We've sent over 49,000 emails to youth and senior disabled or Medicare users whose cards were due to expire. And the email, as we found from survey data that I'll share later, has been the most common way that customers were made aware of this requirement. We saw big spikes in the data in March and in April as those emails went out. We've also held multiple in-person verification events, partnering with our community outreach groups. We're happy to partner with your groups if that's something that's of appeal to you. We've done over 65 hours of work outreach, certifying over 2,000 people through those events. A photo of one is listed there. You can see Daniel, who's our interim manager for Pronto Support, on site with Paulina, one of the representatives. What they're doing there is taking the documents or the photo or documents or the IDs for those people who qualify and immediately converting their account, adding their cardholder information so that they're set to ride at the correct reduced fare with the correct expiration date. We have additional outreach planned throughout the summer. We're doing targeted messaging to help our youth riders be converted through the Y2K promotion. We're continuing with email information, onboard communication, and exploring the possibility of app notifications as well. We've also created partner toolkits that include all of the step-by-step directions in 4 different languages on how to use the online application. And all of those are available to the general public as well as each of you on our website. So I referenced earlier that we did collect feedback from our writers. Anytime you launch something that's new, especially of this scale that MTS had never done before, it was important to us to be able to gather real user feedback to identify areas where we may need to be flexible or modify the experience for the user to make it a better experience. So we launched a survey for those who had gone through the online application in March and had over 700 responses. The split between youth and seniors was actually, or senior disabled and Medicare was almost 50-50. And we're excited to share that over 71% of the applicants described the process as somewhat or very easy. This feedback was consistent across the board, though generally youth did find the online application easier than seniors. And some of the feedback we received from writers, we've already been able to take action on and modify the experience. So for example, one piece of feedback was that finding the application was a challenge. And so we reworked what the application was called. We produced step-by-step materials that circled exactly where you needed to click to get into the application. We produced videos that showed the screen flows. We found that some of our users were ending up in the automated process and they didn't belong there. So we created more clear directions, for example, for youth using a school ID to not start the automated process, as a school ID couldn't be approved through that. And as I mentioned earlier, we had step-by-step flyers produced in 4 different languages to help our various clients understand how to use the process. So in addition to it being easy, we wanted to make sure that the application was something that wasn't overly burdensome in terms of time taken to commit. And we found from the survey that almost 60% of the users reported that it took less than 10 minutes. 3/4 of the users said it took less than 15 minutes. So we do believe that the modifications that we made based on their feedback, as well as this initial feedback, show us that the application time to complete is reasonable. And that in general, it isn't an overly burdensome process. As expected with most technology, youth reported faster times overall. But in general, most people's comments were things like, it was easy and it was helpful. The process was great, no need for improvement. Once you watch and listen to the tutorial, it's much easier to complete. So that was positive feedback. We have received a small handful of comments that were not positive, and the benefit to those comments is we know who the person was, so we were able to connect directly with the person who was struggling through the application, and the team in Pronto does a really great job staying on the phone, walking them through the entirety of the process to make sure we can understand where they were struggling and get that resolved so they can ultimately get to the approval state as well. With that, I'll turn it back over to Israel.
Thanks, Amanda. And so now next steps, as with any system, we don't just set it and forget it here at MTS. We continue to iterate. We continue to look for ways to improve the system. One of these is an improvement, a feature where we allow the institutions to provide the reduced fare status directly on the institutional portal to their participants without agency involvement. They can do that. They will be able to do that directly. That makes the process more efficient. We are also going to implement a customer-specific 30, 60, and 90-day expiration email notification reminders, alerts, to remind our customers that, hey, you have an expiring date coming up, and make sure to submit your documentation for renewal. And we will, of course, continue to provide flexibility for temporary eligibilities for those customers that perhaps are waiting on a document or an ID replacement in order to undergo the formal process by calling Amanda's group at Support Services for a temporary eligibility, which can be done through our customer relationship module. And of course, we'll continue to monitor the results over the coming months with the goal of understanding the progress and then make decisions on next steps. Questions, comments?
I was just wondering, could you define what institutions you're referring to when they would be granted the ability?
Sure. By institutions, we're referring to those who participate in the Pronto Partners program, meaning they provide passes on a monthly basis to people within their accounts. So for example, the San Diego Regional Center is one of our largest institutional partners. We're working direct, actually just spoke to Todd yesterday. We're working very closely with him and all of our agency partners to allow them the ability to certify that, yes, someone is eligible based on age, for example. I've seen this person, my employee's ID. I can certify they are of age to qualify for a senior rate. They can then make the card a senior and add the photo on behalf of that person without having to go through the online application or come to the transit store. Sure.
A couple questions. At the beginning, you mentioned how initially there was a 42% abandonment rate. That's people who weren't started but did not complete the form. And then it went down to 35%, I assume, once some of these changes were implemented after the survey. How are we capturing the reasons for the abandonment? Because I assume they weren't included in the survey. That was just people who completed it. And so are we addressing the reasons why those people are having trouble filling out the form, or do we think that it's something else?
So that's a great question. So that's some of the nuance that we dealt with in trying to kind of read between the lines. From a technical perspective, we had the not executor, in this case, abandoned cases. But as with any system that looks at records and identity verifications, there's only so much data there. So the survey captures some of this information, but this is actually something we're working with our vendor to have more in the weeds analysis as to some of these failure points, not only in the automated portion, but also on the main website, so we can understand specifically where someone is going to in the website or the process is breaking within an application. So we don't have all the answers to that question, but that's a great question.
Thank you. I just have one other question. We're talking about institutions, and putting on my Sandag hat for a second with Youth Opportunity Pass. Will schools be able to be part of the institutional partnership and approve their students?
Yes, absolutely. We've been working with multiple districts already. We will be having several of the school districts participate in the testing phase as this institutional website is developed. And part of the reason we provided that extension to all cards that Sandag had issued as part of the YOP is we want to ensure that we have additional tools such as this website available to them at the point of the next extension being needed.
Great. Thank you. Good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much for the report. Next, item number 5 is an MTS access update. And I'm gonna turn this over to Charles Postpaul, our new manager of paratransit and minibus services. And Charles, if you want to introduce yourself and introduce Bree a little bit, that might be helpful. We'll want to hear your name again. I almost said Charles Popsicle.
Yes, of course. So good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm Charles Pasapel, MTS's new manager of paratransit and minibus. I started my tenure here with MTS back in May, so I've been here about 3 months now. Prior to that, I've held various roles within the transit industry with maintenance management, fixed route, commuter shuttle, and most recently I was with TransDev as the general manager for San Francisco paratransit operations. I'd also like to introduce Brianne Graham to my right. She's MTS's supervisor of paratransit and minibus. She's worked with MTS for about 5 years now, joining the paratransit team in November of last year. Previous to that, she served within MTS's support services department.
Thank you.
So next, I'd like to go over a little bit of our ridership numbers. So our ridership continues to slowly increase. So far, the beginning of FY24 through May 2024, we've seen a 26% increase of passengers. If we compare that year over year from FY23, there's been a 42% increase. Additionally, the complaint ratio has stayed relatively consistent with an FY24 average of 0.20%. And that's nearly a 5% improvement from FY23. While our access eligibility assessment total numbers are down compared to FY23, we've seen a huge uptick in assessments over the past 4 months. So I believe that trend will continue into the future months here, summer months. All right, moving on, I'd like to go over a few items of note from our paratransit contractor, TransDev. TransDev continues to improve their on-time performance, with May finishing at 91.58%. There's an increased driver pool, which has allowed TransDev to take on a majority of the daily scheduled trips. And lastly, they are holding an employee appreciation event tomorrow for the drivers and rest of the staff. Lastly, I'd like to take a minute to touch on a couple of MTS programs. I know Israel and Amanda touched on the Youth Opportunity Pass program. I just wanted to reiterate that this has been extended through June 30th, 2026, and also includes MTS Access certified clients who are 18 and under. And secondly, our free Coronado Summer Shuttle runs through September 2nd on Route 904. MTS Access is also included in this program. So if you're an MTS Access certified client, you could book a free trip within 3/4 of a mile from any of the stops along Route 904. That concludes my update.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? No? Okay. And after that, we've got a report on the fixed route and trolley update. Is that going to be Mike Brent Boyd or Mike Wygant?
Gonna wing it, but hold on, we'll find Brian. Gillian, just give us a second.
Hi, good afternoon.
Mhm.
I'm Brian Killian. I'm the Manager of Transportation Communications and Technology here at MTS. I've been here for approximately 4 years. I spent 25 years at North County Transit, various bus operation roles there. So, quick radio or a quick bus update. Currently, we're holding weekly hiring events here at MTS. We're short on bus operators right now. This is not a unique situation, so we're holding weekly events, trying to bolster our numbers. We interview anywhere from 15 to 20 people weekly, trying to fill these positions. Coming this weekend, we have the Pride Parade, as everybody probably knows. Pride Parade is coming up. This is going to include multiple detours for the routes 1, 10, 11, and 120. These detours will be on from 6:30 to about 4 p.m. We will also be providing bus bridging this weekend for the Blue Line. The trolley line is going to have some construction, so we'll be providing bus bridging all weekend for that as well. So other than that, I don't have any other updates.
Well, we did say this meeting would probably be short. Any questions or comments? Hermes?
Yes. Yes, my name is Hermes Castro. I work for Access to Independence. And I see a lot of my clients coming in, and I've always asked them, like, what is the situation with MTS? Are they working with you? Like, what are the biggest issues when it comes to transportation with the minibus and then the bus coming out to pick them up? And then I go out to the bus and I meet with them and I ask the drivers, like, hey, like, how are you? You know, I kind of like ask them some questions, and they're all very respectful, very nice individuals. And, you know, like, they're always treating individuals right. But I think, like, from what I'm hearing is the lack of staffing when it comes to, you know, the buses, the individuals that are supposed to be arriving. So that's where I've seen in my end, talking to customers, talking to employees who are the bus drivers, that there's not enough staffing in there. So I'm wondering, like, why is that? Like, how much are you guys paying these staff members? Like, what's going on? What's the biggest issue here? And then at the same time, I'm wondering, do you guys hire? I mean, we should be hiring people with disabilities. That should not be an issue. But I'm wondering, is there individuals with disabilities that are driving for MTS and are actually you know, like being part of the solution here?
Thank you for the question. Which mode of service were you referring to, the access or fixed route?
Access.
So we are, Transdev is, they're always hiring. They have increased their driver pool significantly. You know, as we came out of the COVID and the strike, our numbers have improved. We've been able to take on a majority of those trips and not rely so much on the subcontractors. They do offer incentives to their employees. Sometimes it's a sign-on bonus or retention bonus. It just varies depending on what promotions they'd like to roll out.
Mhm.
And as far as hiring employees with disabilities, yes. I don't know firsthand if their Transdev does have any employees with disabilities in their ranks, but that we don't discriminate based on disability. So if they're able to perform the functions of the job, then yes.
Yeah, maybe you and I need to connect because we run a program with youth who are getting their driver's license and they're looking for work. And maybe we can connect together so we can help individuals obtain employment, provide staffing, and then maybe, you know, help out this situation a little bit.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, if I may expand on that, Mike Wygant, Chief Operating Officer here at San Diego MTS. Yeah, staffing has definitely been an issue across our agency. We're working on a lot of initiatives to try to attain more operators across the system. Paratransit was even more adversely affected with COVID. It always goes all the way back to COVID. And with the reduction in rides or requests for rides, we lost a lot of operators. And so Transdev has been working diligently to try to crawl out of that, as we have been on the in-house side. And so some of their representatives are here now. And as it relates to the disability, absolutely, I can introduce you afterwards to TransDev. And if there's any possible scenarios, we would be welcoming it.
That would be awesome.
Just wondering, maybe looking at some of the ways that you could, what is being instituted to help to retain the drivers and retain employees? If it's hard to fill the position, it would be great to see why are people staying and why are they leaving? And then try to address maybe some of those issues, because that could help to fill the gap if there could be a resolution to the reason people leave.
Yeah. So there are a few different initiatives more on a micro level. As you mentioned, the employee outreaches and the employee programs. The board, about a year ago now, authorized some additional funds for raises. Inflation has been astronomical in the region. That's a big component of it. So the competitiveness, the board made a contribution to try to do the right thing to help the contractor. I know that the contractor has a series of negotiations across the realm, not just on paratransit. We have internally negotiations with our own employees ongoing to try to come up with other programs financially to help with that, because that is one of the biggest parts of it. But we also do spend a lot on trying to entertain activities to help with the morale. We look at through negotiations and policies and procedures to try to make the job as best as it possibly can be. But there are some hurdles associated with it. So.
Thank you. Yeah, it is an ongoing issue. In addition to in inflation, we also have increased competition from other transportation providers. And believe it or not, some drivers find it less stressful to transport pizza than to transport people. And I understand we have a person who's eager to connect with the meeting on Zoom, and we're going to take their comment under public comment.
Rene Rodriguez, go ahead and unmute yourself. You have
Hi,
2 minutes.
how are you doing, everybody? This is Rene Rodriguez. I'm a new board member. I couldn't be there today because I'm a little bit sick, so I give my apologies to you guys. In hearing about the situation about the buses, we should check some data about what's going, how we can keep all the rights and everything better, maybe.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Oh, yes. Zachary?
Yeah, I had a question for Brian on the fixed route services. I know MTS had planned to increase some service and bring back some additional restored service with SB 125 funding that got cut from the budget, but I know it's now been released by the state. What are MTS's plans to make that happen?
I may not be the best person to answer that. Mike, could you follow up with that? I'm sorry.
I think we're looking at, again, Mike Wygant, Chief Operating Officer. Yeah, we still haven't secured the money. We've been given notification that this year's allotment is coming, but we're working with the planning department to see what we can implement. I know they're looking in January of maybe adding some service, and I think there may be some minor gains in September, but we haven't really refined it just yet, but we're working on it.
Any other questions or comments? So we can move on to other items. Number 7, committee member communications and other business. Do you have any committee members that need to communicate something?
Chair,
Yes.
there was another part of the presentation to talk about trolley and a trolley update.
Oh, we forgot to talk about the trolley. Well, let's go back to number 6 and finish that up. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Brett Boyd, manager of rail planning and performance. I used to be on this committee, so now I'm on the other side. So this is exciting. Just a few updates on the trolley for anybody that was listening to the board meeting this morning. The copper line got approved, and that's going to be a new trolley line east of El Cajon. So starting at El Cajon Station out to Santee. So the orange and green lines will begin to terminate at the El Cajon Station, and then we'll have this new copper line going from El Cajon to Santee. That'll be implemented at the earliest at the end of September. So I think there's another ASAC meeting before then. If we wanted to have a further update, we have a further update at that point. Brian mentioned the closure this weekend on the trolley. We are going to have a very significant bus bridge. It's from East Street to 12th and Imperial. For anybody that's been riding the trolley over the last few weekends, over the last few months, there's been a lot of construction going on out there. We're kind of getting towards the end of a lot of this construction, so that's nice. But this weekend will be a long run from East Street to 12th and Imperial. There will be an express bus going all the way from East Street to 12th and Imperial, and then there'll be another bus that serves all the stations in between. So anybody that's doing a long distance commute will be able to have the advantage of that express bus. Following that, next weekend is Comic-Con. For anybody that's been down here during Comic-Con weekend, the ridership on the trolley is just out of this world. It's about 60% higher than normal. Last year, we carried about 250,000 extra people over 4 days than a normal 4-day period. We run a special event line that goes from Balboa Station down to 12th and Imperial. So it's kind of a combination of the green line and the blue line. That runs every 15 minutes. So we have service serving the convention center every 7.5 minutes or so. So that is pretty much the update for trolley. If there's any questions.
Any questions? No? Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
sorry.
Zachary.
Thanks, Brent. For Comic-Con, I've noticed that the contactless payment symbols are showing up on the Pronto readers now. Is there going to be an effort to market that to Comic-Con attendees as an easier way to pay?
Yes, I believe so. I think Israel might be, or Amanda might be better.
Hi there, Amanda Denham, Director of Support Services. Yes, there will be a marketing information coming out tomorrow regarding the launch of open payments for the fixed route system.
Anything else? Well, thank you, Brent. And now I think we're ready to move on to number 7, the committee member communications and other business. It's been quite a while since September. I can report that I attended the CALACT, California Association for Coordinated Transportation here in San Diego. I believe it was in April, and we celebrated the 40th anniversary of CALACT. In fact, that group's been around for 40 years. That was very edifying. Anybody else have something to report? Yes, Christian.
Christian Hernandez, I'm the Fax Mobility and Dispatch Manager. So we just finished our cycle 1 of AFA, Access for All, as of June 14th. We are now in our Right Fact program. Unfortunately, due to the low funding, we are limited on the amount of trips we're able to provide. So we are using MTS and CTD as referral sources as well as other nonprofits. There was a lot of demand at the AFA, so we're hoping we can get that started back soon. For the meantime, again, we're just referring to other agencies. We're still continuing to provide transportation, but it is very limited. Thank you.
Any other reports? No? Okay, thank you. Number 8, our next meeting, September 12th, 2024, 1 p.m., same bat time as they used to say. And I hope to see you all there, and believe we're ready to adjourn. Thank you, everybody.